GCSE English, you may well be asked to write a lively article, but what does that exactly mean? I mean, no one wants to write a boring article, but what does that term lively refer to? Well, in this study vlog, I want to unpack a little bit about what that might look like and give you some examples so that you can go away and get your head around what it means to write in a lively manner. Now, when we think about writing for GCSE English, we need to be thinking about the mark scheme and what the examiner is looking for those top grades. And it's really interesting that one of the things that stands out in the mark scheme is this phrase, ideas are convincingly developed with detail, originality and imagination. So basically they want you to write in an interesting and lively way because they want a sense of individuality. They want to see a sense of your personality coming through in your writing, and they don't just want you to trot out sort of pat sentences that anyone anywhere might say about a given topic. I guess that's the temptation if you're asked to write about a topic that you may not care about that much. For example, you know, we've all seen the whole kind of white leaflets on healthy living and exercise and all that kind of stuff. And it's pretty easy in that situation to just give out the well-worn phrases that you often hear teachers tell you in assemblies. You know, it is good to be healthy and, you know, we should all do more exercise, blah, blah, blah. But I think the way you got to think about a lively article or a lively piece of writing, you need to think more about people who write and show their personality through that. So I'm not really thinking about a factual news report, for example. You know, if you read a news article just on BBC News website just about the latest thing that's happened, there won't be much personality in that article. It will be very based on this is what happened and these are the facts, and you know there may be some reference to people's opinions by saying, you know, some people have reacted in this way, but it generally won't be personal to the person who is writing the article. Now, with a lively article, you need to think more about, for example, a newspaper column or an editorial where a writer gives much more sense of their reaction and their opinions to events that are going on around them. That is really what the kind of writing that we're aiming at here. Now, here's an example of that by the well-known columnist Katie Hopkins. There's nothing more women hate more than other women succeeding. That's why they keep stabbing me in the back, says Katie Hopkins. As I walked into my office early one morning, the frosty atmosphere hit me as surely as if I'd opened a freezer door. Conversations stopped. Eyes swiveled away. I swear even the wall clock stopped ticking and the printer ceased humming. Obviously, everyone had been talking about me. I'd barely got one arm out of my jacket before the barbed comments began. That's a nice new suit, Katie, sniffed a secretary. I wish I could afford to buy clothes like that. Lunching out again today, Katie? Snapped another, pointedly stalking past me with her homemade sandwiches into the fridge. I hear that new restaurant by the river is nice. Not that I could afford to eat there, of course. Not like you. What did you notice about what made that lively? Well, first of all, there's a very personal voice here. It's a real life story to kick off this article that she's writing. There's a sense of immediate tension and frosty atmosphere. She's telling a mini story through her anecdote to engage the reader before she goes on to the topic she's going to talk about. There's short sentences for effect, and there's dialogue to further develop the point. This example of where she was treated badly by some other women, that's going to become the focus of her article. The writing feels like it's lively because it could be spoken aloud with a sense of personality and character. So that's the thing that you're going to aim for in your writing. My second example is from the New York Times, and a well-known columnist there is writing. He's writing about people needing to wear face masks during coronavirus. The headline is this: refusing to wear a mask is like driving drunk. He says, as the coronavirus rages out of control across much of the United States, Americans are acting curiously helpless. If we had been this passive in 1776, we would still be part of Britain. Yet even as we prepare to celebrate the 4th of July, we don't seem willing to assert independence from a virus that in 4 months has killed more Americans than the Korean, Vietnam, Gulf, Afghanistan and Iraq wars did over 70 years. Here's the simplest of steps we could take. Wear a face mask. In the United States, mask wearing lags, particularly among men, compared with some other countries. A poll finds that many American men regard the wearing of face masks as a sign of weakness, and President Trump's refusal to wear them has suggested that he perceives that masks are for wimps. Trump may now be switching gears, for he told Fox Business on Wednesday that he's all for masks and would wear one if he were in a tight situation with people. He shouldn't waste time. He should tweet a photo of himself in a mask and call on supporters to wear masks as well. Refusing to cover one's face is reckless, selfish behaviour that imperils the economy and can kill or endanger innocent people. A review of 172 studies in the Lancet Medical Journal found that face mask use could result in a large reduction in risk of infection. An article in Health Affairs found that state mask mandates, which cover about half the population, may have averted more than 230,000 coronavirus infections. Or take a lesson from East Asian countries where mask wearing is more common as a sign of courtesy that have managed to contain the virus. Dr. Kwok Young Nguyen, an infectious disease specialist at the University of Hong Kong, told me a crucial reason for Hong Kong's success against COVID-19, less than 1 death per million inhabitants, compared with 385 per million in the United States, is that 97% of Hong Kong residents wear masks. Masking is a sign of responsible civility, Yuan told me. Hong Kong, like some Asian countries, distributes masks free. The United States should do the same, for the cost is negligible compared with hospitalisation. A University of Washington computer model suggests that 33,000 American lives could be saved from COVID-19 between now and October the 1st if more people wore masks. The implication is that inconsiderate Americans, unwilling to wear them, could in the next few months kill thousands of their neighbours. We need to do everything we can to increase mask usage, said Kate Grabowski, an epidemiologist of Johns Hopkins University. But she added, people shouldn't see masks as a silver bullet. They're not going to be 100% effective at preventing transmission. So even with masks, we also need distancing, hand washing, contact tracing and bans on large assemblies. The White House Press Secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, deflects questions about Trump and masks by insisting that mask wearing is simply a personal choice. No, it's not. Refusing to wear a mask is no more a personal choice than drinking all evening and then stumbling into your car and heading down the road. In a time of plague, shunning a face mask is like driving drunk, putting everyone in your path in danger. Can you see what makes this writing lively too? There's a lot of personal opinions here and a use of exaggerated words in the tone to make a point. There's imperative sentences, commands, wear a mask. And there's also facts and statistics the whole way through to back it up. Figures of deaths, figures of infection rates, and so on and so forth. There's declarative sentences, which state things very boldly and plainly. It makes it hard to argue against. And there's also the use of sarcasm and irony, light touches of humour, but that make a very biting and strong point at the same time. Overall, you should think about how the writer talks about the topic of wearing a face mask and what their use of these techniques and their tone with its liveliness conveys. Think about the effect of what they say and how their lively tone makes what they say more effective. How would it be different if this person had simply said, look, the stats prove it, just wear a face mask? Somehow using a lively tone is getting people on board. It's helping people to see from their viewpoint, and it's making delivering the blunt information and facts very different to receive than simply reading out a blunt news report. Hopefully now you're getting a sense of what it means to write in a lively way. I want you to think about how you can start putting that into practice in your revision. Try and take a random BBC News report, just take whatever's on the front page BBC News and work at rewording it, rephrasing it to inject your lively personality into the story. Try using those techniques that we've seen: personal opinions, exaggeration, imperative commands, declarative sentences. Facts and statistics have their place, but using sarcasm or humour around their delivery can also help you drive the point home. If you want to complete an actual exam style question, how about this one? Write a lively article for your school magazine expressing your views on a new fashion trend. Now, if you're feeling a bit stuck, I'll give you an idea. You could talk about whether it's appropriate for teens and adults to wear a onesie in public, as recent fashion trends may have shown. Now, how are you going to go about writing your lively article? Well, like anything, you have to think about the purpose and the structure and the audience and the layout. And you have to make sure that you are structuring it firmly with secure points to make before you start injecting your personality. There's only so far personality can take you, and you need to have a framework or a rubric to work with first. So I would maybe jot down some ideas, pros and cons of the onesie, for example, or another fashion trend that you can think of. You might want to do the man bun or something else completely. Once you've got some ideas of where you'd like to go, then take one point and try and make a really punchy opening. So your opening is going to try and engage people to care about the topic and draw them in with your personality. So think about using rhetorical questions, something that really gets the reader to think about the onesie. You could maybe think about giving people a scenario. You're in the supermarket queue and there's someone dressed in a sheep onesie next to you. How does it make you feel? Now, when you're developing ideas for a lively article, what you need to do is have a really clear opening sentence for every paragraph. And that opening sentence really needs to introduce the key point you're going to focus on for that paragraph. Now, you may be writing in a lively way, but that doesn't mean you want to ping pong over loads of different ideas in the same paragraph. You still want to have a sense of structure. So if you maybe want to make the point that onesies are inappropriate for adults to be wearing in public, then have a really simple opening statement that's going to give your viewpoint really clearly. And then you can start developing that idea in more detail. You can give some opinions here, but you can give some examples. You can give some reasons to develop why you think wearing a onesie is not a great idea in Tesco. But you can also use a bit of humour and experiment then with these techniques that we've been looking at. You might want to use a personal story. You might want to use humour. You might want to use an anecdote. You might want to use some exaggerated language, personal pronouns, repetition, rhetorical question, all those kind of techniques to convey your point. And then you want to bring the paragraph to a strong conclusion with a really clear sentence to end it before you then move on to the next point. Once you've written your article, you should self-assess it and think, have you made a really clear article about the topic you've been given, and have you stayed on topic? But also, have you included examples and details to back up your idea? Have you experimented with using a more personal style to make it lively? Is there a sense of your personality coming through in the words that you've said? Have you used some humour to good effect? Have you used other techniques as well? Have you got a really clear sense of voice? Is it like you can hear yourself saying it? Overall then, lively writing is not too difficult because, let's face it, in your conversation, you are often using these devices very naturally. You will often tell anecdotes, stories that have happened to you, to your friends, to make them laugh. You will often use techniques such as exaggeration when you're doing that. And you'll often use humour when you comment on other people, the things that you've noticed around you. So the trick is to feed those observations, those real life observations, into your writing to make it really come to life.
Hit subscribe if you'd like to follow my vlog for more updates on teaching, reading and studying.